Welcome to the Wise Women Collective Show.
Join hosts Lin Schussler-Williams, Holly Hartman, and Brooke Haynes with their inspiring guests for conversations that fuel personal growth, career success, and community impact.
Tune in to connect and amplify your power, because when women rise, the world follows.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wise Women Collective Radio. I'm Lin Schussler-Williams, and I have Holly Hartman and Brooke Haynes here. And man, buckle up, people. We've got a conversation's going to happen here today. Okay, so the three of us produced the Be More Conference for Women, in case you didn't know. And we're recording this with the spring 2025 conference just having ended recently. And we were having conversation about why the Be More Conference. Why is it important for the three of us who's honestly, our plates are pretty full before we start volunteering to produce the Be More Conference, right? Like seriously, most people would look at the plates that we have spinning and think, and you want to produce a global online conference for women too, twice a year. And it takes about a quarter each time. So we spend half our year volunteering to produce this Be More Conference. So I just want to first of all, pat ourselves on the back because we do that. And we're really like awesome at it. And, we want to have a conversation about why it's important. And, you know, this is a conversation we have for ourselves, not just for our listeners. I want to be really transparent about the fact that the week before the conference this time, I said out loud to these two, who thought this was a good idea? And they're like, that would be you, Lynn. And you say this every time. And by the time it gets here, you're like, yes, this is so great. So like we all need to understand the why. So there you go. Holly, you want to chime in here and say something about your experience of all this? And
yeah, I think for me, like when I said yes, because you'd been doing it for a couple of years before I came in and said yes. Yeah. So like my why is different than when you started it. Sure. But my why, I think, is very much in alignment with yours of, you know, for me, one of my passions is creating safe spaces for women to thrive. Like that's one of my callings. That's one of my missions. That is, so if there is a community that I can be a part of that is going to allow women to show up authentically and share their experience, strength, and hope with others, I'm in. Like that is that I want to create more opportunities and spaces for people to do that. And what I love about the Be More Conference is that we hear multiple different stories. There were, you know, we had this year, we did something different than we've never done is panels. And in that opportunity to have two different panels, women sharing their story and these little nuggets of like, this is what I did when I needed self-care. This is what I needed when I was transitioning in life, because life is full of transitions, especially as women. We have multiple transitions that happen. And so, you know, we had that opportunity to hear their stories and the energy in the room. And I say the room because it was the Zoom room, but like the energy was off the charts of women going, me too, that's me. I've been that. Oh, what did you do when this situation happened? And they were answering those questions in real time. And that's what women need. We need connection. We need to feel seen. We need to feel heard, but we also need to be led, not all the time, but like peer to peer going, I've been through this and this is how I got through it. And then someone else might have a different story and go, and this is how I navigated through it. And just that beautiful tapestry of women's voices coming together to share both the struggle, and oftentimes our struggle is the thing that we are led to make an impact in, and now a platform to share what that was, what they did, and then where they're at now. And that the inspiration, because people either change for two reasons: the pain's great enough or they're inspired. And we want this conference to be the inspiration for women to change their lives moving forward and feel amplified and feel seen and feel heard and feel ready to tackle what's coming in the world right now And that was one thing that Lynn said that I was like, oh, we have to talk about this. And the statement she said, and it gave me chills, was, we're not going back. And we need spaces like this so we don't go backwards. So we hold our space and we move forward. And it's the momentum of moving forward. So that is my why for me.
I love that. And I want to say this about that statement about we're not going back. So we've said before on here, just so our listeners understand, that I am at the end of the baby boomers and these two are millennials, right? And no, what are y'all?
Gen X.
We're right at the end of Gen X.
Proud Gen Xers.
Oh my
Right.
What are you doing?
Right. So they're so funny, y'all. It's so
no.
We're like I think 16 and 17 years apart. I'm that much older than the two of them. And so it is, I have memories that these two don't have. I have memories of conversations around the dinner table about whether it's appropriate for women to go to work. Women in the workplace was a question when I was 15 years old at the dinner table. I want you to just take that in for a minute. And, it is, when I say I am willing to talk about we are not going back, what I mean by that is that everybody who's 20 years younger than me and everybody who's 35, 40 years younger than me, I have a daughter who's 38 years younger than me, right? I have a son who's 43 years younger than me, right? I want the women of all of these generations to never be faced with a society that says to them, you can or can't do something because of your gender, right? Period. Like, just put a pin in that, right? And in my mind, everything we can do, whatever your thing is to do, your thing doesn't have to be my thing. But the Be More conference came about during lockdown when we were nurturing a community of women and none of us could get together in person. That wasn't even an option, right? So it came about, birthed from that, but it's continued beyond that in a way that I think helps us not go back. Women come out of that conference, you mentioned, Holly, amplified. Like, we do an exercise where people connect with each other in small groups virtually, and they amplify each other's dreams. Like, women need that to know my dream is worthy. My vision holds some power, and I will not go back to the point where I can't have that or do that so yeah. So Brooke, when we were starting to have this conversation before we hit record, and we stopped because we were like, this was too juicy not to record this. I want you to talk about how that landed for you, because it was a different point of view than what I just described, right? It was a different kind of perspective.
Yes, it definitely was. And the thing that I want to just backtrack a little bit and say about the Be More conference and the community that we create, and what's important to me, and what's been the most support for me is the amplification that we do for each other. Yeah. It is also about uplifting each other, because as women who are creatures to receive, we don't receive very well, right? Or we have, in lots of cases, been known to not accept the help, to receive being told, actually, you are beautiful. Actually, you are strong. Actually, you don't need that to make you better. You don't need this to make, all of that. You are good enough as you are. And that's what this space has been for me, to say you are good enough. And not to go down the rabbit hole, but I will say, and Lynn, you've structured that. Like, the spaces you've created are a place that I got to walk in and just be me. Right. And so So that's why this was important to me. And then, so fast forward to how we got to this conversation. Because I, was hearing about, I'm not willing to go back. And I have this thing, two parts of that. One is, I don't see how we could ever go back because we have come so far. I'm not saying there isn't things that have to be done or that there are ways to keep focused, but I don't think we could go back. I don't think there are people who would allow it to go back, right? Like us, we're sitting here saying we're not going to allow it to go back, right? Also, I am someone who is against popular belief or whatever, against what's usually popular belief. I don't believe history repeats itself. I think, but for no reason. I think history repeats itself because that's what people focus on. When people start relating things to history and they start looking at history, they start studying history, they allow history to become their present. And so when we say, and then someone would argue to me always in my life, well, Brooke, without history, we wouldn't know how not to go back that way. It's a double-edged sword. And I'm saying we can see what happened with who we are as new versions of ourselves and know, okay, we know where we don't want to go, but let's focus on where we are going and how we get there. And this space that we've created for women is part of that. That's how we get there. That's how we move forward. We continue to go. If there were a law today that said we no longer have rights, do you think we would just not? First of all, I can't even imagine. But second of all, if so, do you think that's just how we're going to lay down? No, that's creating history. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so it would be a different ball game. It would be a different experience with a different set of people, with a different version of who humans are today. Could it be? Yeah, we could get real scared and lay down and we could let anything happen.
Right.
But that's a focus, right? So I don't believe, so that's why I don't buy into that's where we're heading thing.
Well, and I guess what I'm saying, I'm not saying that's where we're headed. I'm saying we have to be conscious and aware and make choices so that we aren't laying down. Like I'm saying, I'm willing to be and do the difference between whatever has been and whatever's going to be, right? Mm-hmm. Not allowing us to go back. Right. And I get what you're saying, Brooke. We are there are, first of all, there are a lot more women now than there were even 50 years ago, right? Our population is bigger and we're 51% of the population. So there's more of us. And the percentage of women who are empowered and not living from the social programs of the past is a much higher percentage. So there is a great deal of hope in all of that for me. And I feel like if we don't consciously say, I will not go back, I will not be in a position to go back, then we're being naive. That's how it feels to me. Like we have to stand up. Yeah. Holly.
So this conversation kind of reminds me of, I think it's more, I hear that statement and it feels to me more of like, we can't be complacent. We can't assume by that it's going to like maintain status quo, that we have to be vigilant in showing up to conferences, attending conferences, and not just conferences, but that's like kind of somewhat of the focus here, but meaning supporting other women who are taking action, not just if you're not being called to be the leader, but being called to be present, to show up, to invest in other women leaders who are taking the charge. that not being complacent and just like coasting, going, okay, everything is fine. And what I heard and like what it like brought back to me was, I'm the director of RARE, which is Radical Action Advancing Racial Equity. And I saw this really clearly after the election. And what I saw was we had 1,000 members in our group right before the election. And this is a group for white women to learn about racial equity. And then right after the election, we in like a week, we like doubled the group size. And what I saw in that, and this is my assumption, what I saw in that was that there were a good portion of women that assumed that the election might go a different way. And that just by doing one action, which would be to vote, would have been enough. And what I saw was an awakening of going, oh, that's not enough. We need to do more. And so when I hear that statement of we're not going back, it's more of an invitation to go, don't wait till that reveal happens and go, oh, I should have been doing work up until this point. It's more of a, we got to do this now, not go, that light switch has turned on. How do we turn it back off? It's we have to continually be vigilant so that does not switch and go, oh, I never thought it would be that way. Well, it is, and it's current. And we can make changes now, but you can't assume somebody's going to do it for you. You have to show up for others, for other women, be vigilant. And so I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox now, but like, that's what I saw in the data. And it was so powerful for me to see that and go, there are people that want to do the work. They just didn't know where. But I also saw action of taking the action to go find where the people are doing the work. But what I'm saying is do it before you realize that you need to do it. It's time to do it now. So that's my like little bit of a soapbox.
all of that, like all of that. Well said. And I think that's what I mean. And when I come from, we are different. Right. And, and the way we react are different. And I want to circle back around to something you said right before then, Lynn. You said, and show up in this place of presence. See, I think that is the key. Bigger, that right there is bigger than anything. I think it solves a lot of issues. Like, I think we don't make bigger ground in things like women's rights and gay rights and racism and all this stuff because we still have those programs. So we move by the inch to the millimeter to the millimeter to the millimeter. When if we reset some of this stuff, like if we cleared out, if you spoke with Lynn, if you do the work it takes, then absolutely we don't repeat this. You know what I'm saying? Because we're half of the reason it goes so slow is because we're dragging the past with us. Right. And the fear of the past and the stuff that comes from the past. So it's like, no, let's clean this up so we can show up, so we can be more present with different belief systems. And there is nothing stronger than unity. Like unity is where it's at. Right. So how do you create these safe spaces where we have two totally different opposing thoughts and see through it to make a community that can still thrive, even though we think about it differently? You know, they're just to the biggest degree as we can anyway. Right. Right. Sometimes people just need to go create their own community.
Yeah. And so I want to say this about what you just said, Brooke, because you're speaking about my work with Reset It and presence in that is the lack of programs and conditions. And whatever fear we feel when we think about what could happen in our society today for marginalized people of all varieties, whether it's women, LGBTQ, immigration, people who are dealing with immigration issues, all the things, right? All our marginalized people. And I'm not trying to say they're all equal either. They all have their own level of importance. I'm just saying that our ability to not be mired in the fear is very related to the lack of programs and conditions not, being possible for us. And that's what we call a state of presence. Presence is the lack of programs and conditions. And our programs and conditions feed our fear, right? Our programs and conditions are also what kept women in subservient roles for generations, right?
Which what keeps some people still not stepping into their power
Exactly.
when they have it all. Yes,
exactly.
And I know the slippery slope of how it can sound dismissive if you hear someone saying, well, this is because it's a belief system. And you're like, no, it's a problem with humanity. I get that. It is not a dismissive. It is there's not a dismissive, no one's dismissing what the importance of all this is.
Right.
Or how hard that could be. Right.
Right.
And the bigger the issue, like women's rights or racism or LGBTQ rights, right? That these big, important issues, the belief system that it could be so, it can sound so dismissive when you're trying to tell me there is something that we can do to change and to move forward. And so I want to make sure that gets addressed, because I know none of this conversation is to help someone feel like they're dismissed. More of how you're empowered. This is how we empower each other.
Right. 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 And all of us the three of us together are involved in community that has the core value of creating diversity and inclusion. We have a core value of providing women an opportunity and an environment to step into our greatness and our power to build our self-belief and confidence, all of these things, right? And so just recognizing that all of that is part of the why, I think, of the Be More conference. And that honestly, for me, where our society is today is a big reason this conference won't get canceled just because I'm tired or something, right? Like that motivates me to say it's important for us to keep whatever communities we have that have those values vibrant and going. And so I hope our listeners who would agree with that will feel called to support the conference, because yes, we charge money for those tickets, but not very much, because we want to be sure as many people as possible can come. And we the producers of it operate basically as volunteers. It doesn't even come close to paying for our time and energy that we put into it. So yeah, it's for me, it's an important thing for us to keep going, because we won't go back. We just won't. Yeah.
I was thinking about what you just said, and I was like, yeah, when I think about the rush at the end, did you buy your tickets? Did you buy your tickets? For me, it literally comes from the energy of, you do not want to miss this kind of connection. I know what this did for me the first time I ever amplified another woman and I got amplified.
Yeah.
What that did for me, I don't want anybody to ever miss out on that experience. And so when I start rushing around looking for ticket sales, it's from that energy. It's from the, who do you know that has not had this experience? Because it is a must experience.
Right. Right. Well, it's about time for us to wrap up. Any closing thoughts, Holly?
Just be open, be open to the possibility. And the beauty is, we didn't mention this is recorded. What we're doing right now is recorded, but Be More conference is recorded. So even if you didn't get to come to the one that we just did, you can go and watch the recordings. You can buy them now. Or if you want to come to the next one, but maybe the dates don't work, you can get the recording and still feel all of what we shared and all the stories. And I just encourage people to invest in themselves so they can be amplified and be prepared for what we have coming forward.
I love that. And we'll put all the ways you can get tickets depending on what time of year you're listening to this and all of that in the show notes and all of that. So thank you both. Thank you for being who you are, for co-producing this and the Be More conference, and standing up and not being willing to go back. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Wise Women Collective Show.
We trust you're leaving inspired, empowered, and ready to make a difference. Keep the momentum going. Join our Wise Women Collective community at wisewomencollectivehq.com.
Connect with other women, amplify your power, and together we'll continue to rise. Until next time, stay strong and connected, because when women rise, the world follows.